Men. She ignored until single. What happened when single you was taken? Story 1. I met Talia at 22 when we worked the same late shift at a grocery store. I asked her out twice. Casual, no pressure. Both times she smiled like I was a little brother. "Aw, you're sweet," she'd say, then turn around and flirt with whichever guy had a louder laugh. For 2 years, I stayed polite. I stopped offering rides, stopped liking her photos, stopped being available for her "can you help me move" texts. I changed jobs, started lifting, started sleeping more than 4 hours a night. Life got quiet, better. Then I started dating Mia. Mia didn't need an audience. She just showed up. Coffee in hand, hoodie stolen, calm energy that made my apartment feel like a home. That's when Talia reappeared. Her first message was innocent. "Hey stranger, long time." Then, "I saw you at the mall. You look different." Then, "Are you seeing someone?" I didn't answer the third one. I posted a picture a week later. Mia's hand in mine, her ring catching the light, nothing dramatic. Talia called me. Actually called. "Why didn't you ever try harder with me?" she demanded, like the last 2 years hadn't happened. I laughed because I thought she was joking. "I did try," I said. "You ignored me." "I wasn't ready then," she snapped, "but I am now." There it was. The entitlement. The assumption that my life had been paused, waiting for her to press play. "I'm taken," I told her. She went quiet, then did that thing some people do when they can't control the story. She tried to rewrite it. "So you're just going to throw away what we could have had?" "We didn't have anything," I said, surprisingly calm. The next day, she showed up at my new workplace with a smile that looked practiced. She brought cookies for my coworkers, like she was campaigning. Mia met me after my shift. Talia spotted her and froze mid-sentence. Mia looked at the cookies, then at Talia. "Oh, you must be the not ready girl." I didn't say it. Mia did, with a polite little grin. Talia's face turned red, then she hissed, "He was obsessed with me," Mia shrugged. "And now he's happy." Funny how that works. Talia left the cookies on the counter and stormed out, knocking over a display of brochures on the way. I remember standing there thinking, she didn't want me. She wanted the version of me someone else chose. And the best part? For the first time, that didn't hurt at all. Story 2. In our friend group, everyone knew the rule. Nina replied when it benefited Nina. When I texted, she'd leave me on red for days. But if she needed a +1 for a wedding or someone to carry her couch up 3 flights, suddenly I was her favorite person. I stopped playing along. I started saying no. Not angry, just unavailable. I poured into my own life. Picked up photography. Met people who didn't treat attention like a vending machine. That's how I met Elise, at a local photo walk. She was the kind of pretty that didn't beg for it, and she listened like what I said mattered. Within months, we were official. 2 weeks after we posted our first picture together, Nina called me at 1:13 a.m. "I'm outside," she said. I thought something was wrong. I opened my door and found her standing there in an oversized hoodie, mascara smudged, phone shaking in her hand. "Ryan cheated," she said, voice cracking. "I'm done. I need you." I let her inside, made tea, gave her a blanket. I was human. I wasn't cruel, but I kept my distance. At 2:05 a.m., she slid closer on the couch like it was a scene she'd rehearsed. "You always cared about me," she whispered. "Maybe I should have chosen you." I stared at her. My phone buzzed. Elise checking if I was okay because I'd stepped out of bed. I felt my stomach drop. Nina saw the notification and her eyes sharpened immediately. "Is she there?" Nina asked, suddenly cold. "I'm taken," I said. Nina laughed once like it offended her. "You can't be serious." "I'm literally here." I stood up. "That's the problem. You're only here because you're single." Her mouth opened, then shut. She looked around my living room like she expected a hidden camera to pop out and tell her it was a prank. "So you're rejecting me? Now?" she said, voice rising. "After everything I've been through tonight?" I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I just told the truth. "I'm not your emergency exit," I said. "You ignored me when you had options. Now you're trying to claim me because you feel lonely." She snapped to her feet. "Wow, Elise really trained you, huh?" That's when Elise walked in, hair messy, eyes tired, but steady. "Hi," Elise said softly. "I'm not training him. I'm dating a man who finally learned self-respect." Nina's expression flickered. Hurt, anger, embarrassment, all fighting for control. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard my hallway picture tilted crooked. The next day, she posted a quote about men abandoning women in their darkest moments. Half the friend group messaged me, asking what happened. I told them simply, she didn't want me. She wanted someone to patch the hole Ryan left, and for once, I didn't feel guilty for not volunteering to be the bandage. Story 3. Sasha was a master at the accidental ignore. You'd talk, she'd smile, she'd promise to hang out, and then your messages would sit there, untouched, until her relationship status changed. It became a running joke. Sasha's phone only works when she's single. I was stupid enough to hope I'd be the exception. When she was dating Marco, she called me buddy and asked me for career advice. When they broke up, she sent selfies and late-night I miss you texts. Then she'd get back with him and vanish again. After the third cycle, something in me clicked. I didn't hate her. I just refused to be scheduled like an appointment. I started dating Priya, who worked in the same field and actually understood my life. We were quiet about it at first. No posts, no announcements. Then Sasha and Marco broke up for real. Messy, public, everyone knew. 2 days later, my phone lit up with a message from Sasha. Can we talk? I think I made a mistake. I didn't answer. She showed up at my gym anyway, wearing a matching set like she'd coordinated with the mirror. Hey, she said breathlessly. I've been thinking about you. I took my earbuds out. About me or about being alone? Her smile tightened. Don't do that. She launched into a speech. How she always felt safe with me. How she should have chosen the steady guy. How Marco never appreciated her. It was a whole audition. Then Priya walked in. She spotted me, waved, and came over with 2 bottles of water, offering one like she'd done it 100 times. Because she had. Sasha's eyes went wide. Who's that? My girlfriend, I said. Sasha laughed like it was impossible. Since when? Since I stopped waiting, I replied. Her face changed. The sweetness dropped. So you're just going to act like I never mattered? I looked at her. Really look. You only remembered I existed when you didn't have anyone else. She swallowed hard, trying to regain control. We have chemistry. Priya raised an eyebrow. Chemistry doesn't show up only when someone's single. Sasha turned to me, desperate now. I can be different. And there it was. The offer. Not love. Not remorse. A last-second bid. I believe you, I said, just not for me. Sasha walked away fast, shoulders stiff. Later that night, she sent a final message. Hope she's worth it. I didn't respond. Because the truth was simple. Priya wasn't worth it compared to Sasha. Priya was the first person who never treated me like a backup plan. Story 4. In college, I was the nice guy in the most literal sense. I held doors, brought extra notes, helped study, and Kara, my crush, treated me like a free service. She'd ignore my texts for a week, then show up at my door with puppy eyes. Can you help me with my resume? Can you drive me to the airport? Can you fix my laptop? If I hinted at feelings, she'd laugh softly. You're such a good friend. Then she graduated, got a boyfriend with a motorcycle, and stopped pretending I existed. 3 years later, my phone buzzed with a follow request. Kara. I didn't accept it. I was in a different life now. Steady job, my own place, and most importantly, I was dating Hannah, who wasn't impressed by performative charm. A week after the request, Kara messaged me anyway. I heard you're doing really well. Proud of you. Proud. Like she'd invested in me. I replied politely. Thanks. Hope you're well. She went straight for it. Want to catch up? I'm single now. I stared at the screen and actually chuckled. There it was. No pretense, no build-up. Just single now, like it was the key that unlocked me. I told her, I'm taken. She called immediately. Are you serious? She demanded. You were obsessed with me back then. I kept my voice even. I was interested. You ignored me. I didn't ignore you, she said quickly. I just had a lot going on. I remembered every time she'd looked through me to find someone cooler behind my shoulder. Sure. Then she did something I didn't expect. She showed up at my apartment building. I don't know how she got the address. She waited by the lobby like she belonged there. When I walked in with Hannah, groceries in hand, Kara stepped forward with a bright smile. Hi, she chirped, eyes darting between us. I wanted to surprise you. Hannah's grip tightened on the bag. Who is this? Kara stuck out her hand to Hannah like she was introducing herself at an interview. Kara. An old friend. Hannah didn't take her hand. I'm Hannah, the girlfriend. Kara's smile trembled. Oh, right. Then Kara turned to me, voice low and sharp. So that's it? You're just going to choose her? Hannah laughed, short and incredulous. He didn't choose me over you. He chose himself. You just showed up late and called it fate. Kara's eyes flashed with humiliation. She muttered something about people changing and stormed out. Hannah looked at me and said, was she always like that? I nodded. And for the first time, I didn't feel embarrassed admitting it, because I wasn't that guy anymore. Story 5. I didn't realize how invisible I was to Layla until I stopped being useful. We were neighbors in the same building. She'd wave in the hallway, accept my help carrying packages, borrow random things, toolkit, charger, sugar. But when I invited her to grab dinner, she'd say, "Aw, you're sweet," and disappear behind her door. Then she got a boyfriend. Loud, flashy, constantly revving his car outside like he owned the street. Layla stopped waving, stopped borrowing things, stopped even making eye contact. Honestly, it stung, but it also cured me. I joined a weekend hiking group to get out of my head. That's where I met Sophia. Straightforward, funny, the type who would look you in the eye and ask real questions. We moved slow, steady. Eventually, she basically lived at my place. Then one night, I heard crying in the hallway. I opened my door and found Layla sitting on the floor by her apartment, knees pulled to her chest. "He left," she whispered, packed his stuff and left. I feel stupid. I sat with her for a minute, offered water, listened. I wasn't heartless. But when she leaned into me, too close, her tone shifted. "You know," she said, voice soft, "you've always been the one person who actually cared." My stomach tightened. I could see exactly where this was going, like a script I'd read before. "Layla," I said carefully. "I'm taken." She blinked. "Taken? By who?" Before I could answer, Sophia walked out from my apartment wearing my hoodie, hair messy, holding my phone charger like she owned the place. Because she kind of did. Sophia took one look at Layla on the floor and immediately softened. "Oh no. Are you okay?" Layla's eyes snapped to Sophia. Her sadness didn't vanish, but it twisted into something else. Resentment. "I'm fine," Layla said sharply, standing up too fast. "I didn't realize you had company." Sophia glanced at me, then back at Layla. "I'm his girlfriend." Layla stared at me like I'd betrayed a contract I never signed. "So you moved on? Fast?" I let out a slow breath. "It wasn't fast. You just didn't notice my life until you were alone." Her jaw clenched. "I was in a relationship, and I was a neighbor," I replied. "Not a backup." Layla's eyes filled again. But this time it wasn't just pain. It was frustration that she didn't get to control the timing. Sophia stepped closer to me and said calmly, "If you need someone to call a friend. But don't try to borrow a boyfriend." Layla flinched like she'd been slapped, then scoffed and wiped her face. "Whatever. I just thought he was different." I watched her retreat into her apartment, door slamming. Sophia looked up at me. "You okay?" I nodded, surprised to realize I really was. Because for the first time, I wasn't the guy she ignored until she needed something. I was the guy who didn't come running anymore. Story 6. When I first met Alina, she treated me like background music. Nice to have on, easy to ignore. We worked in the same office, and every time I tried to start something outside work, she'd forget to reply. But she always remembered to reply to the tall guy from sales. Then she got serious with him. Engagement photos. Couple vacations. The whole highlight reel. I muted her stories and focused on myself. I switched teams, got promoted, started boxing after work, and, without meaning to, stopped looking at my phone like it owed me answers. That's when I met Brooke. She was a client rep who had zero interest in office politics, and she made everything feel simple. We were together 6 months before we posted anything. Alina's engagement blew up overnight. Apparently, Mr. Sales had been networking a little too broadly. The next day, my phone lit up. "Alina. Hey, I know this is random. Can we talk?" Then, "I miss our vibe." Then, I think I ignored the wrong person. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, because I'd finally learned that silence is an answer. She cornered me in the break room, eyes glossy like she'd practiced in the mirror. "I'm sorry," she said. "I was stupid. You were always the safe choice." Safe choice. Like I was a seatbelt, not a human. "I'm taken," I said. Her face tightened. "By who?" Brooke walked in like a cue. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her coffee, and smiled. "Hey, babe. Ready for dinner?" Alina looked between us like her brain refused to load the page. "So you moved on?" I laughed once. "I moved on when you were still posting couple trips." Her voice cracked. "But I'm single now." "And I'm not," I said, calm as ever. Alina tried the last play. "Do you really want to settle? With her?" Brooke turned. Not rude, just lethal. He didn't settle. He upgraded, because he stopped accepting scraps. Alina's mouth opened, then closed. She walked out, shoulders stiff, and by the next morning she'd unfollowed me and posted some quote about timing. The timing was perfect, just not for her. Story 7. Jenna used to treat my messages like spam. Left on read. "Busy. Sorry, missed this." 2 days later, but if I posted anything that hinted I was doing well, new job, new haircut, vacation, she'd react within minutes. We'd been friends since high school, and I was the idiot who thought patience was loyalty. Then I met Samira at a concert. We bonded over the same dumb band, shared fries afterward, and she actually answered texts like a normal person. Within weeks, I realized I'd been starving for basic respect. Jenna's long-term boyfriend dumped her right before Christmas. Suddenly, she was back in my DMS like she'd never left. Jenna. Can we talk? I need you. Jenna. You're the only guy who ever understood me. Jenna. I'm coming over. I told her not to. She came anyway. She showed up with red eyes and a hoodie that used to belong to her ex. She pushed past me into my apartment like I was her safe house. I don't know what to do, she whispered, collapsing onto my couch. I feel so alone. I sat across from her, keeping distance. I offered tea. I listened. And then, like clockwork, she leaned forward and touched my hand. I should have given you a chance, she said softly. I was just distracted. My phone buzzed. Samira. On my way. Want me to pick up dessert? Jenna saw the name and froze. Who's Samira? My girlfriend, I said. Her whole face changed, like someone flipped a switch from sadness to offense. You didn't tell me you were seeing someone. You didn't ask, I replied. Jenna stood up fast. So you're just going to abandon me when I'm hurting? Samira walked in right then, carrying a paper bag. She took one look at Jenna, then at me. Oh. Hi. Jenna's voice went sharp. He's helping me. We have history. Samira set the bag down calmly. History isn't ownership. Jenna laughed bitterly. You don't even know him like I do. Samira didn't blink. I know he doesn't answer emergency calls from people who ignored him for years. Jenna stared at me, waiting for me to defend her. I didn't. She stormed out and texted me later. Hope she leaves you too. Samira read it over my shoulder and just said, that's not heartbreak. That's entitlement. And honestly, that's when I finally stopped feeling guilty. Story 8. I was the guy Chloe called sweet. She said it like a compliment and used it like a boundary. We worked retail together, and she loved having a man around who'd cover her shifts, walk her to her car, listen to her rants. But if I asked her out, she'd laugh and say, you're too nice. I'd ruin you. Then she dated a guy who wasn't nice at all. He cheated. She forgave. He cheated again. She posted sad songs and kept forgiving. I stopped volunteering for her life. 2 years later, I was dating Erin, a nurse who had seen real problems and didn't manufacture drama for attention. We were serious, quietly serious. Chloe's relationship finally exploded in public. She showed up at my new job's parking lot with watery eyes and a coffee she'd bought for me. I need to talk, she said. I should have kept walking. Instead, I stood there like an idiot. She launched into the story. How he lied, how she wasted time, how she realized what she deserved. Then she looked at me like I was the lesson. You always treated me right, she whispered. I was blind. I said, I'm taken. Her eyes widened, offended. Since when? Since I stopped being your emotional support guy. She swallowed, then tried to smile. You can't blame me for not choosing you earlier. I wasn't ready. I nodded. Exactly. And I'm not available now. Chloe's voice turned sharp. So you're happy to throw me away? I stared at her. You can't throw away something you never picked up. Right then, Erin pulled into the lot, still in scrubs, tired but glowing. She stepped out and walked straight over, kissed me, and asked, everything okay? Chloe looked like she'd been slapped by reality. I introduced them. Erin's smile stayed polite, but her eyes were clear. She understood the situation instantly. Chloe's face tight. Well, good for you, Erin nodded. It is, actually. Chloe walked away fast, coffee still in her hand. She didn't even take a sip. Later, I realized something. Chloe didn't come back because she saw me. She came back because she saw she'd lost the option. Story 9. Marina didn't ignore me loudly. She did it elegantly, like it was accidental. She'd heart my message 2 days later without replying. She'd say, oh my god, sorry, crazy week, then disappear again. But she always invited me to group hangouts because I was funny. Translation? I made her feel adored without demanding anything. I eventually met Leah through a mutual friend. Leah was blunt in the best way. She didn't flirt for sport. She flirted because she meant it. We started dating and I didn't tell anyone right away. 2 months in, Marina's boyfriend dumped her. Suddenly she started showing up everywhere I was, dressing like she'd just stepped off a dating app profile. At a friend's birthday dinner, she slid into the seat next to me like it was reserved. You look good, she said. Have you been working out? I smiled politely. Yeah. She leaned closer. We should catch up, just us. Before I could answer, Leah walked in and sat across from me, resting her hand on my knee under the table. It was subtle, but it was a claim and a comfort at the same time. Marina noticed immediately. Her smile faltered. Who's that? My girlfriend, I said. Marina's eyes flashed. You're joking? Leah lifted her glass. Hi, I'm Leah. Marina forced a laugh. Wow, I didn't know you were seeing someone. Leah tilted her head. He doesn't announce it to everyone, especially not to people who only notice him when they're single. The table went quiet. You could practically hear forks stop midair. Marina's cheeks reddened. Excuse me? Leah didn't raise her voice. You ignored him for years. Now you're hovering. It's not hard to read. Marina looked at me, expecting me to correct Leah, to defend Marina's intentions. I didn't. I just said, she's right. Marina stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly. Unbelievable. I thought you were different. Leah smiled faintly. He is. That's why you're late. Marina left the restaurant in tears, and the friend group spent the next week debating whether Leah was too harsh. I told them the truth. Harsh would have been letting Marina use me again. Story 10. Back when I had nothing to offer but attention, Ivy treated me like a lamp. Useful when she wanted light, invisible when she didn't. She'd ignore my calls, but if her car wouldn't start, she'd text, "Are you awake?" If I didn't answer in 5 minutes, she'd send, "Wow." I got tired of feeling like a convenience store. I moved cities for work. New start. New people. I met Natalie at a coworker's housewarming party. She asked questions that weren't fishing lines. She didn't play games with silence. It was the healthiest thing I'd ever stumbled into. A year later, I came back to my hometown for a weekend. I posted one picture. Natalie and me at a cafe, her head on my shoulder. Ivy messaged me within 10 minutes. "Is that your girlfriend? You look so happy. I always knew you were husband material." Husband material. Now. Convenient. I didn't reply. Ivy found me anyway. At the same bar we used to go to with friends. She walked up like we were in a movie. "Can we talk?" she asked, eyes shining. "I'm taken," I said immediately. She laughed. "You're really going to hide behind that?" Natalie stepped beside me, calm and confident. "He's not hiding. He's stating a fact." Ivy looked Natalie up and down. "So you're the reason he doesn't answer me?" Natalie smiled politely. "No. The reason is you ignored him until you were single." Ivy's expression cracked. "I didn't ignore him. I just didn't realize." Natalie nodded. "Exactly." Ivy turned to me, voice rising. "You're going to choose her after everything I put you through?" I blinked. "That's not the argument you think it is." The bartender glanced over. Nearby people started listening. Ivy realized she had an audience and tried one last move. Tears. "I was finally ready," she whispered. Natalie didn't flinch. And he was finally gone. Ivy stood there shaking, then stormed out, pushing past strangers like they'd personally offended her. Natalie took my hand and said, "You okay?" I looked at the door Ivy disappeared through and felt something I didn't expect. Relief. Not because Ivy hurt, but because she couldn't anymore. Story 11. In college, Liza treated me like a background character in her main storyline. She'd tag me in group photos, laugh at my jokes in front of people, then ignore my texts for days. If I asked her out, she'd hit me with the classic, "You're such a good guy. I don't want to ruin our friendship." Translation: I like the attention, not the commitment. After graduation, she dated a string of exciting guys who always looked exhausted. I went quiet, built a life, got my own place, stopped being the guy who waited. Then I met Claire at a volunteer event. She didn't flirt like it was a game. She flirted like she meant it. We started dating and it felt clean. No guessing. One Friday night, I was grabbing groceries when my phone buzzed. Liza. "Hey, random question. Are you single?" I stared at it for a full minute before replying. "No." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Since when?" "Since a while," she called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail anyway. Voice soft and shaky, like she'd practiced being vulnerable. I've been thinking about you. I think I made a mistake." 2 days later, she showed up at my building holding a bottle of wine like she belonged there. I opened the door and she smiled too brightly. "I brought this," she said. "Can we talk inside?" "No," I said. "I'm taken." Her smile froze. "You don't have to be." That line hit me like cold water. Not, "I'm happy for you." Not, "I respect that." Just, "You don't have to be." Claire walked up behind me in socks, hair tied up, holding my spare keys. "Everything okay?" Liza's eyes flicked over her. "Oh." Claire smiled politely. "Hi. I'm the girlfriend." Liza laughed, thin and bitter. "Of course. He always gets picked by someone else." Claire blinked. "He didn't get picked. He chose." Liza's face reddened. "He wanted me first." I finally said it out loud. "And you ignored me until you were single." Silence. Liza's mouth opened, but nothing came out that didn't sound pathetic. She left the wine on the floor and walked away without it. Like even she knew it wasn't a gift, it was a bribe. Story 12. Sienna was the queen of soft rejections. Never mean, never direct. Just enough warmth to keep you hopeful. She'd say things like, "You're such a catch," and "Any girl would be lucky," while dating someone else the whole time. I was her safe guy. The one she called when her boyfriend made her cry. The one who answered, because I confused loyalty with love. Then I met Danny. She wasn't flashy, but she was steady. She asked me out first. And when I hesitated, she said, "You don't have to earn basic kindness. If you want to try, let's try." We became official fast because it wasn't complicated. 3 weeks later, Sienna's relationship imploded. She posted a black screen story. "Don't ask." Everyone asked. She ignored them. Then she texted me. "Can I come over? I just need to be with someone safe." I told her, "I can talk, but I'm not alone. My girlfriend's here." She replied, "Oh, since when do you have a girlfriend?" That question made something in me snap. Not anger, just clarity. I said, "Since I stopped waiting for you to notice me." Sienna still came over anyway. She knocked like she owned the door. When I opened it, she tried to walk past me. Danny stepped into view behind me and said calmly, "Hi." Sienna stopped, eyes narrowing. "So you're her?" Danny nodded. "I'm Danny." Sienna looked at me, voice trembling. "Are you seriously choosing her while I'm falling apart?" Danny didn't flinch. "He's not choosing her over you. You never chose him. You just liked having him available." Sienna's face twisted with humiliation. "You don't know what we had." I finally said, "We had you ignoring me until you needed comfort." Sienna's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't move me the way they used to, because I recognized them now. Not sadness, but shock that the safety net had disappeared. She left without yelling. That was almost worse. She walked down the hallway like a person realizing the world doesn't pause for her feelings. Story 13. Kara never liked me, until other people did. In our gym community, she'd barely acknowledge me. I'd say hi. She'd nod without removing her earbuds. If I tried to talk, she'd glance past me like someone more interesting might appear. Then I started dating Monique, who was impossible to ignore. Not because she tried, but because she carried herself like she belonged anywhere. The first time Kara saw us together, her entire attitude changed. Suddenly, she was smiling. Suddenly, she was so proud of my progress. Suddenly, she was asking questions about my workout plan, my job, my weekend. I didn't trust it, but I didn't call it out either. Then Monique and I made it official on social media. 2 days later, Kara messaged me. "Can we grab coffee? I feel like we never really got to know each other." I replied, "I'm taken." She responded instantly, "I know. But are you happy?" That question felt like poison. Like she wasn't asking because she cared. She was asking because she wanted a crack. I didn't answer. The next day at the gym, Kara approached me while Monique was in the locker room. "You know," Kara said, lowering her voice, "I always thought you were different. I just wasn't in the right place before." I looked at her. "You ignored me." She laughed nervously. "No, I was just busy." Monique walked up behind me and said, "Busy with what? Pretending he wasn't there?" Kara startled. "Oh, hi." Monique smiled, sweet but sharp. "If you want to be his friend, that's fine. But if you're here because you're single and he's taken, you're wasting your time." Kara's face turned red. "I wasn't," Monique cut in calmly. "Yes, you were." Kara looked at me, waiting for me to soften it, to protect her ego. I didn't. I said, "I'm good, Kara." And the craziest part? I felt lighter after, like I'd finally stopped apologizing for being chosen. Story Chitrapatsmit. Naomi used to keep me on a leash without calling it one. She'd disappear for weeks, then resurface with, "I miss you." She'd flirt just enough to keep me invested, then vanish again when some new guy popped up. I finally got tired of feeling like a placeholder. I met Paige at a bookshop. She smiled at my stupid joke about buying self-help books, ironically, and we talked for an hour like we'd known each other longer than we had. With Paige, there was no disappearing act. If she liked me, she said it. If she was busy, she told me when she'd call. It was adult. 2 months into dating Paige, Naomi texted me at midnight. "I'm single. Come over." No hello. No, how are you? Just a command. I replied, "I'm taken." She sent, "LOL by who?" Paige was lying next to me reading. I showed her the screen. Paige raised her eyebrows and said, "That's bold." Naomi then called, 3 times. I ignored it. Then she sent a voice note. "Stop acting like you're too good for me. You begged for me for years." Paige reached over, took my phone gently, and hit record on a response. She handed it back to me and whispered, "Say it clearly." So I did. "Naomi, I'm with someone. Don't contact me like this again." Within seconds, Naomi replied, "Wow, she changed you." Paige laughed softly. "No, I changed nothing. He just finally stopped accepting disrespect." The next day, Naomi showed up at my workplace. Not to talk, just to be seen. She stood there like a threat wrapped in perfume. Paige arrived 10 minutes later with lunch for me, saw Naomi, and said casually, "Oh, you're the midnight come over message." Naomi's face fell apart in real time. Paige smiled. Embarrassing, right? Naomi left without another word. And I realized, people who ignore you until you're taken don't want you. They want control. Story 15. I'd known Valeria since high school. She was the type who collected admirers like trophies, not because she was evil, because she liked the power. I was one of them, the reliable one. The guy she'd call when her boyfriend made her cry. The guy she'd ignore when her boyfriend was treating her well again. After years of that, I moved away. New city, new routine, new boundaries. I met April through a coworker, and she was immediately different. No games, no tests, no prove yourself. She liked me, so she acted like it. A year later, I went back home for my cousin's engagement party. April came with me. We walked in holding hands, and I felt Valeria's eyes lock onto us like a radar. By the time dessert came out, she was sitting next to me, laughing too loudly. "So," she said, leaning in, "I heard you're doing well." "Yeah," I said. She glanced at April, then back to me. "Is she your girlfriend?" April answered before I could. "Yes." Valeria smiled like she was being polite, but her eyes were calculating. "Cute. How serious is it?" April took a sip of her drink. "Serious enough that asking that is weird." Valeria laughed, but it cracked. "I'm just curious. We have history." I finally spoke. "We have you ignoring me until you were single. That's the history." The table went silent. My cousin's fiancé actually stopped chewing. Valeria's face flushed. "That's not fair." April leaned closer to me and said calmly, "It's accurate." Valeria tried to play victim. "I didn't know you felt that way." I shrugged. "You knew. You just didn't care." Valeria stood up abruptly, chair scraping the floor, and hissed, "Whatever. Enjoy your little relationship." April smiled at her like she was watching a child throw a tantrum. "We will." Valeria left early, and later my old friends admitted she'd been telling people she could have had me anytime. April looked at me in the car and said, "She's right. She could have had you. Back when you didn't know your worth." And that was the point. Story 16. Marta never ignored me in a cruel way. She ignored me in a convenient way. If I invited her out, she'd forget to reply. If she needed a favor, help moving a shelf, fixing Wi-Fi, she'd respond in under 5 minutes with a dozen heart emojis. I finally stopped being a free service. A few months later, I met Yana at a friend's housewarming. She was blunt, funny, and didn't treat attention like currency. We started dating and kept it quiet, mostly because we liked our peace. Then Marta's boyfriend dumped her. Suddenly my phone was lighting up like it was 2019 again. "Marta, hey, can we talk?" "Marta, I'm going through something." "Marta, I always felt safest with you." I replied once. "Hope you're okay." "I'm taken," she sent. "That doesn't mean you can't be there for me." That line annoyed me more than it should have, because it revealed the assumption. My relationship was an obstacle to her needs. 2 days later, she showed up at my door with a sad smile and a bag of pastries. "I brought you these," she said, stepping forward. Yana walked up behind me and said, "And who are you?" Marta froze. "Marta, we're friends." Yana nodded slowly. "Friends don't show up uninvited with pastries in a crisis." Marta's eyes widened. "I'm not here for that. I realized I made a mistake." Yana smiled politely. "A mistake is ordering the wrong coffee. You ignored him until you were single." Marta looked at me, pleading. "I didn't ignore you. I cut in, calm. "You ignored me." Her face crumpled. She left the pastries on the floor like they could buy forgiveness, then walked away without them. Yana closed the door and said, "She didn't want you. She wanted access." And honestly, that was the first time someone said it so clearly that it couldn't hurt anymore. Story 17. Kira and I ran in the same friend circles for years. She was always busy, always not looking for anything, always dating someone the moment she said she wasn't dating. Whenever I showed interest, she'd keep me close but never close enough. Then I started dating Diana, who was the opposite of vague. Diana didn't flirt and disappear. She showed up. She asked about my family. She remembered my deadlines. It felt like being chosen on purpose. When Kira became single, it was like a switch flipped. She started reacting to my stories, replying to old posts, dropping "we should hang out" like it was overdue. I finally agreed. Public place, quick coffee, because I wanted to end the weird tension. Kira arrived dressed like it was a date. She slid into the booth and said, "So, are you seeing anyone?" "Yes," I said. "I'm taken." Her smile faltered. "Seriously? Since when?" "Since before you noticed me." Kira laughed, trying to play it off. "I always noticed you." I shook my head. "You noticed me when you were bored or lonely?" Her eyes flashed. "Wow, you're bitter." I didn't raise my voice. "I'm honest." She leaned forward, lowering her tone. "If you really liked her, you wouldn't be here." I stared at her. "I'm here to say stop." Kira's face went stiff. "Stop what?" "Stop circling my life because yours is empty right now." She stood up so fast the chair scraped. People turned. She hissed, "She's not going to last. Girls like her don't stay." Right then my phone lit up. "Diana, how's coffee?" Want me to bring you that cinnamon thing you like? I showed Kira the screen. This is what staying looks like. Kira left without finishing her drink, and the next day, she posted a vague quote about men who can't handle strong women. The funny part? Diana never even had to raise her voice. Kira lost because I stopped whispering yes. Story 18. When I met Oksana, she was dating a guy who loved being the center of attention. She ignored everyone who didn't make her look cooler by association. I was invisible to her, until I became useful. She'd message me when she needed help with a project. She'd praise me in public, then ignore me privately. It was like she wanted the benefit of me without the responsibility of acknowledging me. I got tired. I left the group chat, stopped showing up, and started rebuilding my life with people who didn't treat me like a tool. That's how I met Lena. She was quiet confidence, smart, stable, uninterested in drama. We moved in together after 8 months because it felt natural, not rushed. Oksana's boyfriend dumped her at a party. Loudly. In front of everyone. She went from queen to alone in 10 minutes. 2 days later, she called me crying. Please, she said. You're the only person who won't judge me. I said, I can't be that person for you. I'm taken. She went silent. Taken? By who? I didn't answer fast enough. She laughed sharp. Of course. You waited for me forever and then, what? Replaced me. That word made my jaw tighten. Replaced. Like she'd ever been mine. Lena walked into the room, heard her tone through the speaker, and mouthed, Who is that? I put it on speaker. Oksana, I said. Lena's here. Oksana's voice turned sugary. Oh, hi. I didn't know he had a girlfriend, Lena said calmly. He does. And you didn't know because you didn't care until you were single, Oksana snapped. I was in a relationship, Lena replied. And he was a person, not your backup. Oksana hung up. The next weekend, she tried to approach me in a cafe, acting like nothing happened. Lena stood up, placed her hand on my chest and said softly, No. Just one word. Not rude. Final. Oksana walked away like she'd been dismissed from her own fantasy. Story 19. Tessa was my almost. Not because we had chemistry, but because she kept me close enough that I never fully moved on. She'd flirt when she was bored, then vanish when someone else gave her attention. If I pulled back, she'd send a late-night message. Miss you. Just enough to reel me in. One day, I stopped answering. That's when I met Noor at a coworker's birthday dinner. She laughed at my jokes, sure, but she also asked me what I wanted out of life. Nobody had asked me that in a long time. Noor and I started dating. Real dating. Not maybe someday dating. The first time I posted Noor on my story, Tessa replied instantly, Wow, didn't think you'd move on that fast. Fast. Like she owned the timeline. A week later, Tessa texted, I'm single. Can we talk now? I replied, I'm taken. She called anyway. So you're really doing this? I said. Doing what? Choosing her, Tessa snapped. After all the years I gave you. I laughed. You didn't give me years. You borrowed them. Silence. Then she tried the guilt. I was figuring myself out, I answered. And I figured myself out too. That night, she showed up at our friend's get-together and pulled me aside like she was staging a private scene. Noor followed a minute later. Not jealous, just aware. Tessa looked Noor up and down and said, He used to be obsessed with me. Noor smiled, calm. If he was, you ignored him. Tessa's face tight. You don't know anything about us. Noor shrugged. I know enough. You came back when you were single? Tessa turned to me, voice trembling with rage. Say something. So I did. Noor's right. Leave me alone. Tessa's eyes filled. She stormed out, and the room went quiet like the air had been cut. Noor took my hand and said softly, That wasn't love. That was habit, and she was right. Tessa didn't miss me. She missed the control. Story 20. I used to sit 2 rows behind Mel in lectures. I helped her with assignments. Walked her home when it was late. Listened to her complain about guys who never treated her right. Every time I hinted I liked her, she'd smile and say, You're going to make someone really happy one day. Then she got a boyfriend and acted like I didn't exist. After graduation, I built a career and a routine that didn't revolve around waiting. I met Iris through a mutual friend. Iris was direct. I like you. If you like me, let's not pretend. We got serious. Quietly serious. Then engaged. That's when Mel popped back up, newly single, like my life had been a tab she reopened. Mel. Hey, long time. We should catch up, Mel. I always wondered what would have happened if I said yes. I replied, I'm taken. Engaged, actually, she called immediately. Engaged? To who? I met her for coffee in a public place because I wanted it done cleanly. She arrived wearing perfume I remembered from college and a smile that tried too hard. So, she said, You're really engaged? Yes. She tilted her head. Do you love her? I stared. Why? Mel leaned closer. Because I'm single now, and I've grown. I finally see what was in front of me. I exhaled slowly. Mel, you ignored me until you were single. Her face fell. That's not fair. I was young, and I was real, I said. She swallowed. So that's it? You're not even going to consider... I cut in, calm and final. No. When I got home, Iris was in the kitchen reading. I told her what happened. She didn't panic. She didn't rage. She just looked at me and said, people like that don't want you. They want the version of you they can access. Then she held up her hand, ring catching the light, and smiled. Good thing you're inaccessible now, and that was the best feeling of all. Story 21. Nadia used to treat my attention like a subscription she could cancel and restart anytime. When she was dating someone, she'd leave my texts unread for weeks. When she was single, she'd call me her person and send voice notes at 2 a.m. about how no one understands her. I stopped answering after the third cycle. 6 months later, I met Emma at a coworker's BBQ. Emma was calm in a way that made chaos feel embarrassing. We started dating, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was auditioning for basic respect. Then Nadia became single again. You could tell because she suddenly started watching every story I posted, immediately. Heart reactions. Miss you. We should catch up. I ignored it. One evening, she appeared at my door holding a bag of takeout like she lived there. I was in the neighborhood, she said, already stepping forward. Emma walked into the hallway behind me, barefoot, wearing my hoodie. Nadia's eyes snapped to her like a spotlight. Who's that? Nadia asked, voice too sharp to be casual. My girlfriend, I said. Nadia's smile twitched. Wow, so you're serious. Emma looked at the takeout and then at Nadia. Is this your thing? Showing up when you're single and acting like he's reserved for you? Nadia blinked, offended. Excuse me? Emma didn't flinch. He's not an emergency contact. Nadia turned to me, voice rising. So you're just going to let her talk to me like that? I kept my tone even. She's saying what I've been too polite to say. Nadia's eyes filled, but the tears felt strategic. I didn't ignore you. I was in a relationship, and I was in your blind spot, I replied. She left the takeout on the floor and stormed down the hall. Emma closed the door and said, that wasn't love. That was entitlement with mascara. I laughed, then realized I was laughing because it was true. Story 22. In my friend group, everyone knew Paige had a pattern. She'd ignore decent guys and chase chaos. Then when chaos hurt her, she'd look for someone stable to hold her together. That someone used to be me. She'd text me, you're the only guy I trust, right after leaving me on red for 2 weeks. I let it happen because I thought being patient made me noble. Then I met Chloe at a climbing gym. Chloe didn't perform emotions. She communicated them. We dated quietly and it felt so normal that I realized how abnormal my past had been. Paige's boyfriend dumped her, and within 24 hours she was in my DMs. Paige, I'm single, Paige. I miss us, Paige. Can I see you tonight? I replied, I'm taken. She sent back, so, you're not married? That one sentence made my stomach turn. A week later, Paige showed up at the climbing gym. She didn't climb. She stood by the entrance pretending to scroll. When I approached, she smiled too sweetly. I just wanted to talk. Chloe appeared behind me, chalking her hands. About what? Paige's eyes narrowed. Oh, you're her. Chloe smiled politely. I'm Chloe. Paige turned to me. You really want someone like that? Chloe laughed once. You don't even know me. Paige's face flushed. I know he used to want me. Chloe's expression turned calm and cutting. And you ignored him until you were single. That's not a flex. That's a confession. People nearby heard. A couple climbers glanced over. Paige realized she'd lost the room. She looked at me, voice trembling. I thought you'd always be there. I nodded. That was your mistake. Paige walked out without another word, and Chloe squeezed my hand and said, let's climb. We're not wasting a good session on a bad habit. Story 23. Sophia and I went on one date in my mid-20s. She canceled the second. Then she forgot the third. After that, she kept me as a maybe, which meant she'd pop up every few months with a flirty message to make sure the door was still unlocked. I eventually locked it. I started dating Caitlin after we met in a night class. She was the kind of woman who asked hard questions and respected the answers. When we became official, it didn't feel like a label. It felt like alignment. Sophia reappeared the week after her relationship ended. Sophia. I'm single again. Want to finally make it happen? I replied. I'm taken. She called immediately. No, you're not. I am, I said. She laughed like it was cute. Okay, but you always liked me. Don't pretend you don't. Caitlin heard the call and mouthed. Is that her? I nodded and put it on speaker. Sophia's voice turned sugary. Oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't know you were there, Caitlin said calmly. He is taken. Please stop, Sophia scoffed. You're really going to throw away chemistry for whatever this is? Caitlin didn't raise her voice. Chemistry isn't a person disappearing until they're single, Sophia snapped. I'm not disappearing. I just have a life, Caitlin replied. So does he. That's why you don't fit in it. There was a pause. Then Sophia did the one thing she hadn't done in years. She hung up first. Later, she messaged me. Hope she's worth it, I showed Caitlin. She smiled and said, if someone asks that, the answer is always yes.